Welcome to Immigrants Unplugged. I'm Saul Gomez, and this is where we dive into real, heartfelt stories from immigrants in our community. We're here to share their journeys, both the tough times and the triumphs, so we can all understand and connect better. These stories are powerful and they matter. So join us as we explore these amazing experiences and celebrate the incredible impact immigrants have in our life. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce Carolina Restrepo, a dynamic leader and passionate advocate for social justice and environmental sustainability. With over 15 years of experience in project management and communications across various sectors in Canada, the United States, and Colombia, Carolina has dedicated her career to creating positive change. She's not only a skilled networker, but she's also the driving force behind Somos Colombia, a vibrant dance group that celebrates Colombian culture here in the Okanagan. Carolina's work and her commitment to community building truly embody the spirit of resilience and cultural pride. Join us as we dive into her journey, her passion for making a difference, and how she's helping to bridge cultures through her work and her love for dance. Carolina, welcome to Immigrants Unplugged. It's an honor for me to have you at the house, at my studio, and my show. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for this invitation. I'm so excited to share my experience as an immigrant with you, of course.
It's an honor, like I said before, because you're a person that I admire, and I always telling you that person that I respect. I have you as an icon leader here in our community. And one of the best memories that I have is when I just get here to Kelowna. You're one of the first small community groups that support me. When I had the store located in the West Side, I make an event, and it was great to have positive response from that. After the moment that I was going through, when nobody knew me at that time, it was very difficult for me. Mm-hmm. Nobody trusts me, and nobody actually knew what was going on, what was the show about. And when I mentioned about the importance of cultural, even when we were celebrating the Day of the Dead.
Yes, I remember.
You as a Colombian and your group of the other Colombians are responding yes to my invitation and to the support. And for me, that's one of the things that I will never forget. So since that moment, we created a good relationship with you and the group. And I always have you as a leader. I remember another occasion too that in the Latino Entrepreneur Network, without hesitation, you came and said, yeah, I can come up and do the speech, introduce my experience to the community, and talk about me. And that's another thing that I really appreciate. And the type of things that I do for community is never easy. You find difficulty, you find challenge. What moves you to do many things for that community?
There are few things that move me. First, when you are an immigrant, it's very important that you adapt to the culture that you arrive. And what we do with the dancing group, the Somos Colombia dancing group, is in some way showing who we are, let them know like our culture, but at the same time, it's an opportunity for us to fit in the culture, to know about the culture through dance and folklore, which is a very important thing as well.
I'm glad you mentioned about this group, because I would like to be talking about this point later in the podcast. And I wanted to know about what is the importance for you and mm-hmm. to demonstrate. And like you say, because we're immigrants, because we don't think that we own it here, because we grew up or raised, we're raising our kids here. But it's important for us to show our culture to them, and they carry with pride, because our descendants is Latinos. Yes. South America, North America, it's like pretty much similar. Mm-hmm. But we come into a country that is very, very different though.
Yes.
Why don't tell us about what brought you here to Canada mm-hmm. and how it's been this experience for you?
Absolutely. To be honest with you, Canada was not part of the plan for me. I live in Colombia. I was born and grew up in Colombia, and I always wanted to go abroad. And at some point, I decided to go to the US to improve my English, and I ended up doing a master's program at the University of California. And at the same time, I met who right now still is my husband. And at that time, he was already living here in Kelowna in Canada. and we didn't want to have like a long distance relationship. So I had to make a decision to immigrate for a second time, but this time was to Canada. So that was a decision that I made for love, no matter that Canada was not was not part of the plan, and it has been good. I have had a lot of challenges as well, because being an immigrant is not easy, but especially being an immigrant twice is a double challenge. But it has been great, and I'm so happy to live here. My kids were born here. They are Canadian, Colombian, and Spaniards, because my husband is from Spain. So they embrace the three cultures, and we call now Kelowna our home.
That's amazing. When you mentioned your husband is from Spain, you're from Colombia, your kid's born here in Canada. But another thing here is like you were living in another country before Canada. That was the United States. How was that experience over there?
That was a good experience. But of course, like people from Colombia, we just need, we have a lot of requirements to being able to get a visa, to being able to study. It's very expensive. There are a lot of kind of obstacles that you need to pass in order to be successful. So I have to pass all of that. And I was lucky enough that I was able to go to a very good university. I had a lot of support from the government, from my government as well, because I applied to a lot of fellowships. I was very perseverant in order to be able to do my master's. So it was hard. I had to work so hard, but it was so good. And when I thought that I was going to stay there, to work there probably for a few years, then happened the decision that I have to make and come here, which I made totally happy. But I had then to begin again here in Canada.
I'm glad you walking me through to all those points. And I feel like I need to still got to go backwards.
Absolutely.
You know? Tell me about your short life that you had in Colombia, because I understand like you left, you know, during university or after the start of your career. Why you don't walk us through like...
Absolutely. I grew up in a city in Colombia that is called Manizales, 400,000 people. I grew up there. I went to university there. I found my first job there, and I was working there, and I had a really good life. I had a very good job. I lived close to my family, but I always had that little thing in my heart that told me that I wanted to go abroad. And when I made that decision, actually, like a lot of my friends and my family were like, what are you doing? Why are you leaving Colombia? But it was an experience that I want to pursue. And no matter that I leave, like I didn't have to leave Colombia because I was in risk or for security issues. I was very lucky in that sense. I took that decision and made it happen. It's how that happened in reality.
What did your parents say about this?
They were not very happy. Like my father was kind of, he opposed a little bit. He didn't understand how, for me, having such a good job, such a good life, I was single at that time too. I didn't want to stay close because I have all the opportunities there. But sometimes it's not about that. It's about you pursue things that you think that you should do. And that implied to begin it, to start from zero, to go through all that process. And that was okay because I don't regret any of it. And I think it was worth it. And I think I needed to leave that as part of my life.
That was a necessity. I think there's some type of hunger spiritual inside of us.
Absolutely.
That it tell us like, you know, I want to keep moving forward. Even where we don't have, I feel like similarities with you and other people that I've been interviewing. Like we're like uncomfortable inside of us, even when for many other people will be satisfied.
Yes.
And there's something in us that is saying like, you know, need to move forward. You need to do something that
Yes.
it challenge you. Need to get out of this environment, something for grow professionally or something to grow personally.
Yes.
What were you doing at Colombia at that time?
I was the CEO of a little exporting company for dried fruits. The company exported dried fruits to markets in Europe and the States. I was in charge of all the company management. It wasn't a small company, but it was such a good professional challenge and opportunity. I grew up a lot as a professional. It was great. But again, I just needed to pursue other things. And for some people, like especially in this case, my father and some of my friends, they didn't understand what I was doing, but it was like a vital necessity to live for me. So that is
How old were you?
I was 29 at the time.
29.
Yes.
And you're already doing a job like it requires a lot of responsibilities.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
leading a group, especially working on sustainability and, you know, food products, that is just not easy. I understand you moved to the United States after, though.
Yes.
How do you support that education? What do you do in the United States?
Okay, so the first thing that I did is just like I have some savings. I sold my car because, like my parents were not super supportive. So a little bit of way to put pressure on that is just like, okay, I had to do it by myself. So everything that I have, and I was looking for programs, and I found like a program that was kind of semi-subsidized by the government to do some English. And my plan was initially to go for 6 months. And this is what I did. But I just took a leave of absence because to the company that I was working with, because I wasn't sure that probably things were going to fail. So when I went there, I began to do my ESL like classes, but at the same time, I began to look for master's program, and I found a program that I really like. And I went to talk with one of the advisors, and he was really interested about my story, my background, and he was kind of the first mentor that I remember. And he really like walked me through the process because, of course, I was there. Everything was new. I didn't know a lot of the procedures or the things to being admitted at the university. And he was my mentor. I was admitted, and they gave me a fellowship for the first year. And this is how I survived the first year. Oh. Then I had another fellowship from Colombia. I was working as a TA. I was working in a fast food restaurant to help to support my expenses. So I was doing everything possible to be able to finish my master's, don't have a big debt, and being able to continue pursuing my dream, of course.
That's such a heavy workload. Go to school and keep working and speaking another language, trying to get adapted to a new system, going to university, homework, projects. Now the life brought you to Canada. I understand because your husband found good opportunity here.
Yes.
At that moment, you were not married yet.
No, we were not.
What do you remember was the first job you did here in Canada?
Okay, so when I arrived in Canada, my plan was, I had my title as my master's from the US, so that simplified my journey here because I didn't have kind of to validate my studies, just because with that master I was able to work in my area of expertise here in Canada. But then before that happened, I got pregnant with my daughter, and then I had to postpone my beginning in Canada in terms of my working experience, right? So I had my daughter. I took my year of parental leave, non-paid in my case because I didn't have any experience, but I just want to spend that time with her. And after I had her, things kind of changed for me because honestly, I wanted to stay with her as long as possible, but at the same time, I wanted to be active and being part of the work market, right? So I decided that I was going to look for a part-time job, not a full-time job, and I didn't know anyone. So I had to begin to build my network here, going for informational interviews, being persistent with that, like talking to people that I didn't know. And from interview to interview, for networking to networking experience, one day I received a phone call from someone that I had an interview in the past, and he told me, Carolina, I think there is a position that you might be interested. Is this part-time position with a non-for-profit organization here in the Okanagan. They do a lot of projects to do environmental protection and all the kind of stuff that you like. Why you don't apply for that position? And I applied, and I got that job, and that was my first job that I got in 2010.
How do you think those type of experience working in 3 different countries, helping you out or stepping you ahead as a leader and project manager?
I like working with people. I like having people working together to pursue goals. And my experience was very helpful because I have dealt with all kind of different people from different backgrounds, from different countries. So that has given me a good perspective and a lot of experience to being able to do my job where I work as a project manager, mostly managing resources, managing different characters, different people. And yeah, that has been very helpful to being able to succeed on that.
Now, you're a mother of 2. Mm-hmm. You're a wife.
Yes.
You put a lot of time volunteering in the community.
Yes.
And you got a lot of responsibility at work.
Yes.
As a professional project manager and working for entity, it's very important for all of us here in the province. How do you balance your personal and professional life? What do you do?
Sometimes it's hard to balance. not always is balance. Sometimes it's imbalance, but you need to find like a way to make it happen. I try to be very organized. Of course, the most important thing in my life are my kids and my family, and I always try to put them as a priority. For that reason, for example, initially I decided to work only part-time, and just 5 years ago I just began my journey as a full-time mom. But always when in the jobs that I have applied, I always have say, like, you know what, I want to pick up my kids from school. This is a very important part of my days. I'm organizing a way that I can be present for them. Again, good organization, good time management, but of course, it hasn't been always that way. Sometimes I have to work a lot and I don't feel super happy about it, but I find a way to try to balance and have all the machines working at the same time.
Now, you work in a lot of environmental and social justice issues. Mm-hmm. What is one of the projects that you feel proud of, make a difference, or that it helps you a lot?
Okay. I manage a grant programs, and there are a lot of projects that I have managed that I really love and proud about it. But there is one in particular that I did in 2019 that was right when COVID began, and it was very challenging for many ways because it was like a hackathon competition style where students from all the universities around BC were developing projects to solve water issues, like problems with the water or things like that. So that project was especially fulfilling because on the first thing, of course, I was working with youth, and when you work with environmental issues, the thing that you want the most is like young people is aware what is going on. And the second thing that made me super proud about that project is just like at that time, Zoom wasn't that common, or working virtually wasn't that easy. And this event was conceived as 100% in-person event. And in a matter of a week, we have to do all these online virtual events with a lot of people connecting from all parts of Canada. That now sounds something like super easy, and it's normal for all of us with Zoom and all the tools that we now have. But at that time was a big challenge, and at the end the project was a success. So I feel very proud about that one in particular.
I think that era of COVID, I would call era because it feels like so long. Instead of like put us down or feel disappointed, it's actually give us more work that it teaches a lot.
Yes. And
we learn new resources of communication, and that's another part. Like it's always surprised me like how an immigrant is working in a position that you do, because when you told me about what you were doing, I get quite surprised because in my experience and years that I got living in Canada, I didn't see any other person that he didn't born and raised in Canada to have that responsibility like what you do. And especially now creating this awareness to create, take care of the water, and you got a lot of experience in the food. But at the same time, either with putting the name for us as Latinos over there in top, you are a person who doesn't stop in building micro community. You got a small group of Colombians, and you always open the doors of your house and welcome them, even for rehearsing, to practice his dance. You're raising the hands every time for any event, and understand also even event planners, when they don't have the resources, because I believe you went through that at some point in the beginning. What is one of the challenges that you see in our community to become a leader?
My plan never was to be a leader. I just wanted to be part of the community. I wanted to participate, that people knew about Colombia. I love dancing, so my intention wasn't that. But things happen like that, and the group has provided that opportunity for us as a Colombians to work together. That is not always that simple. People think that because you are from the same nationality, it's so easy to work together, and that is not the case. One challenge can be that, just like because when you have a group of volunteers, you need to deal with all kind of personalities with time availability, because it's their volunteering time. So organizing those resources is like any other project, is not an easy task. But I really love doing it. I love dancing. I love working with them. I love that our kids are part of the rehearsal and they are playing around us when we are rehearsing. But at the same time, I always feel that we as an immigrants have two responsibilities. One is being part of the culture where we arrive, in this case, Canada, and just being part of it, participate as much as we can, volunteer in different things, be part of the activities of the school of our kids, all of these things. That are not easy always, because it's hard to fit in all of these new groups that you have. But we also, as an immigrants, we have the responsibility of show about our culture, that they know who we, right? That is part of the inclusion. That is the only way we can make an inclusive society. Not only us as an immigrants adapting to this new place that we call home, but also they have interest in knowing more about who we are and what we can bring to this culture. So it's like a double way. And that is not always easy, because there are a lot of misconceptions. There are a lot of things like, for example, it's so funny. I know that you are from Mexico and I'm from Colombia, but at the beginning it was super common that people always ask me, because I have this accent, which part of Mexico are you from, right? Things like that. So there are a lot of misconceptions that we need to change. And dancing is such a good vehicle to do that, because it makes people happy, because it makes us happy, and it's a good way to show who we are.
I really love the strong accent do you put this statement as an immigrant, because I feel so passionate. I feel so passionate about what you're saying and completely understand. And that's what totally this show is. It's about creating awareness to other Canadians, because this country it's been inclusive and it's made us part of the nation. We're proud Canadians, and we don't forget about where we come from.
Exactly.
And we want to try to put it into our kids. I also know you and your sister that are involved in some type of programs with immigrants, because my resources that it can be helpful to get adapted quickly.
Yes.
Can you summarize what is this project about?
Yeah, there is a little company that my sister volunteered with them. And basically what that organization does is to help illegal immigrants to find a job in their area of expertise. So what they do is just like they improve their CV, they train them for interviews, they help them with networking, all this kind of stuff. And what I do is just like when there is someone that contacts them that has a similar profile related to my experience, then is when I go and try to help and try to see with whom we can connect that person. So it's something that I have been doing in the last 2 years. I would like to work a little bit more on that, like to kind of expand and do it more in Canada. I do it also with some friends and things like that I help them with their CV and try to improve them and help them to be prepared for an informational interview. So it's another way to being part of the community. And it's just like sometimes you see that they have there are some immigrants that, or all of us have amazing experiences, but because of we don't know how necessarily the system work or how to communicate it properly, that is not perceived in the proper way. So what we try to do is like convert all this experience and all of these skills that they have in a CV that is adapted to how it's here in Canada or in the States, basically.
It is a big need. I remember when I came to this country, I wasn't aware of many things that I already exist.
Yeah.
And they were just there, but we didn't know how to actually go and get them. And I'm glad you actually mentioned things like this dream to make it possible here in Canada, because there's a lot of need, not only for Latino immigrants, but also for any other immigrants that try to start a new life here in the country. Canada provide a good support, and there's programs and there funds and a lot of voluntary people like actually dedicating, giving the time for basic needs, either like to fill in a CV, is looking for a job, either like classes. And even the people, one of the other things like Canadians, they're always interested and open to learn a different language. They want to learn more about our culture. And I think this is going to be changed as we keep working together, collaborating, working hard and trying to get to those points. Now, I would like to jump to another part of your life. Tell me about Somos Colombia.
Let's say first that I always love dancing, and I have been dancing folkloric dance since probably I was 13, 14 years. So it's always that have been part of the things that I enjoy, right? When I went to the States, there was in the place that I was, there was like a big Colombian community, and I was a member of a dancing group and a music group. And they performed at the university, and they did fundraising activities to help to provide some musical education in Colombia, in some areas that was needed. So when I left the States, honestly, for me, the hardest part was to leave my dancing group that I was part of there. And when I came here, I had always that dream to have a dancing group as a way to integrate the community, to fulfill my love for dancing, but at the same time, just to let people know the Colombian culture. So I waited for several years, but it always was in the back of my head. And you had sometimes to find the right people. And let's say that I found the right people, and we decided to move forward and to create a group. And we honestly applied for a grant with a university here in town because some of us were working there, and they provide us with the seed funding to begin with the group. And with that money, we got our first dresses and places where to rehearse and advertise our group through social media. And we had our first performance in February 2019.
I like that how humble you say, and you mentioned the group. Mm-hmm. Like it's not you, it's actually the group. And that's another thing, like a good leader needs to be collaboration and humility. Mm-hmm. What do you think this Colombians dance can create an impact in the Latino community?
I think it's not only an opportunity for us as Colombians to share our cultures. Through the group, we have performed with other Latin American groups from Peru, from Mexico. We also have had members from other countries. You have been one of our members when you have had the opportunity to be. So it's a way to integrate with the community, with the other members of the Latin American community. But of course, and most importantly, we integrate with the Canadian community. When we dance, we kind of not only go and dance, but we describe what is the origin of the dance, what is the meaning of the dance. So people get some context and understand better us as a culture. And dancing is always like a good excuse or a good way to make people interested about other cultures.
That was a good experience for me. Perform about other folklore moves or dances. Mm-hmm. I think more people, after listening to this, is going to start integrated. Yes. Because one of the things your group, Somos Colombia, show me is there are flags that don't exist.
Yes.
And regarding the Somos Colombian, you got a story when you were performing to Canadian people?
We always try to give a proper introduction to our group. We say who we are. So we say we are part of the Colombian community in the Okanagan, and we are working professionals like moms at home or students. So we try to give the proper background, so not to generate that confusion that regularly comes. Of course, we have the person that asks the funny question, but in general, people is super nice. Like Canadians in general are very nice, and they enjoy the colors, and they just want to learn how to dance. And we have had activities in which like fundraisings where we teach people how to dance, and we have them try our dresses. We used to do that more before COVID. We would like to go back to it. So not only that they can enjoy the dancing, but at the same time they can be a little part of it.
There's another thing that I learned when I was in your group, supporting the group, like the people who perform here on the stage. Mm-hmm. But also at the same time, something that got my attention is like the dresses, the accessories that you wear. You also supporting some type of artisan people back there. Can you tell me about it?
All our dresses and accessories, flowers, earrings, everything are made by Colombian artisans. And we, of course, take the time to find people that have the flowers, all that kind of stuff. And then any of us goes to Colombia for vacation, they always have to bring something for the dancing group. That is part of their suitcase. They always need to have a little bit of an extra space in their suitcases to bring something for the group. And it's how we have done it, because it's not that easy to send things from Colombia to Canada, unfortunately. So yeah, we try to guarantee that all our dresses are made there. A little way to contribute to people in those regions. We perform dances from different regions in Colombia, and we try to guarantee that those dresses are made for artisans on those regions.
Well, I think you've been creating a lot of awareness about that regarding the point. And it's nice to, there's a group that is supporting back in their country over there. And at the same time, making this type of dynamics and getting the people get involved and feel a little bit of Colombia or do the makeup and put this dress, be part of it. I think you're creating a fun environment. At least that's the way that I feel. It's just so much fun just to be part of the Somos Colombia group. I really appreciate the time you put into my podcast to tell me a little bit your background and about your experience in work and social and environmental, about to be a mom, about how you balance, about how do you find all this time to give it to the community. Because I think it's very important that people who'll be watching this understand and see also the critical and hard path that sometimes we got to go through, but we got to keep resilient. We got to keep doing the best we have. Before we say goodbye to the show, I always like to ask this question to my guest. What is Canada means for you?
Canada is home for me right now. My heart is Colombian, and I'm sure to bring Colombia to Canada as much as I can. But I feel that Canada, it's my home. And home is a word that entitles so many things. But as of today, Canada is my home.
Nice. Just before we leave, is there any advice that you want to give to new immigrants that try to integrate to the community or that try to impact as a leader in their new country?
Absolutely. First, I will say that you cannot forget who you are, your traditions, your culture, where you come from. But at the same time, you need to be totally open to be part of the new society that you arrive. And for finding a job, to understand how the school system works, you need to participate, you need to ask questions, you need to volunteer. The culture of volunteering in this country is very important. And I think always volunteer opens big opportunities. Just being very attentive, being a good listener, and aware of the opportunities that sometimes they are there, but you don't see them necessarily. But I feel everything begins with have the disposition to integrate to the country, to participate in the community, and to ask the questions. Don't feel bad if you need to ask a lot of questions. This is normal and that is okay. And sometimes it's the way to proceed and to fit and to find a right opportunity for you.
Thank you for that advice. Anything else you want to add?
That's it. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And sometimes in our lives, or always in our life, we need someone that cheer us up, that recognize the good things that sometimes for us is hard to see. And I really want to thank you that because you have been always that person for me since I met you. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you for your kind of words. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here at Immigrants Unplugged. And I'm really looking forward to have you in another chapter.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Carolina.
Okay.